Chapter 91 Fire Control Ability. The Relics of the Alchemist. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Boom. That's the second time Xiao Xun'er has scored a 100-fold feedback reward. Just like the last time with the 100 times disaster poison body, it hit him all at once. It felt like Xiao Xun'er crammed years of alchemy practice into a single instant. The sheer volume of information flooded his brain, making his temples throb. Then, he snapped his eyes open. Whoa, this is totally different from getting the feedback from the 100 times disaster poison body. This 100 times alchemy technique is all about skill training. Xiao Xun'er held out his hand. It had only been a moment, but it felt like those hands had refined elixirs hundreds of times over. This is an incredible feeling. I wonder what grade of elixir I could make right now. He was itching to start brewing. But the three keys to alchemy are ingredients, fire, and soul perception. You can't make bricks without straw. He didn't even have the materials or a cauldron. How could he even think about making medicine? He focused inward, examining the void space within his body. The golden tree had transformed again, a new branch had sprouted from the trunk. This branch was even brighter than the rainbow sheen of the evil body. It seemed to hold all the world's treasures. Focusing on the branch, Xiao Xun'er saw countless heavenly elixirs flash before his eyes. He couldn't help but think of Yao Lao's description of alchemy. Alchemists refine the treasures of heaven and earth. Remembering this, Xiao Xun'er thought of the ultimate elixirs of the Douqi continent, imperial-grade elixirs. Regular alchemists refine elixirs, but imperial-grade elixirs. Those smelt heaven and earth, mountains and seas. Right now, this branch representing alchemy was showing him endless heavenly elixirs. If Xiao Xun'er's skills kept improving, would he eventually see a scene like heaven and earth, mountains and seas? Maybe the appearance of this branch meant the scene of heaven, earth, mountains, and sea had already arrived. Did that mean Xiao Xun'er already had the alchemy skills to make those crazy powerful imperial-grade elixirs? He shook off his daydreaming and focused. He wanted to see how the system was going to play with his fire and wood attributes. He held out his palms and started gathering fighting energy. As a peak fighting spirit, he could easily condense physical flames. At his command, the golden tree in the void space shuddered slightly. Tons of fighting energy poured out from the alchemy branch, converting into fire attribute energy. It surged through his meridians and finally erupted in Xiao Xun'er's palm. Pop. Substantial flames burst into existence, radiating intense heat. Xiao Xun'er unleashed his soul perception and started to control the flame. The second his soul touched the flame, he knew it was different. It seemed that because his main attribute was water, this flame had a liquid quality to it. Under his control, the flames flowed down like liquid, wrapping around half his forearm. He clenched his fist and instantly formed a suit of flame armor. Flame armor, huh? Too bad my flame isn't a strange fire. It can't match the strength of Xiao Yan's green fire armor from the inner court challenge. This fluid nature would be perfect for Xun'er, though. If only I'd mastered the burning technique. My cultivation's too low right now. I can barely handle one kind of strange fire. Otherwise, I'd totally try to snag Xun'er. But never mind that for now. Once Xun'er subdues the Golden Emperor's burning sky flame, I'll get my hands on a strange fire. Otherwise, without god-tier cultivation, there's no way my body could handle two kinds of strange fire. Giving up the Golden Emperor Fan Tian, ranked 4th, for Xun'er, ranked 15th. That's like throwing away a winning lottery ticket. The thought flashed through Xiao Xun'er's mind. He waved his hand and the flame armor dissolved into a ball. Time to test his control. Flames danced in the valley. Under his control, the fire was like clay. He could mold it into different shapes. The bright yellow flame transformed into a majestic fire dragon. Soaring through the valley, it flipped and dove, scattering the mist, then swooped down to the valley floor. Poof, star, the fire dragon vanished. There was too much moisture in the valley, plus, it was too far away. Xiao Xun'er couldn't maintain complete control and keep it from dissipating. But even though the dragon was gone, it had cleared away some of the mist. Using his soul perception, he saw that the valley floor was littered with monster corpses, and what caught his attention even more was the ceiling circle underneath. Looks like I've stumbled on an opportunity. Purple cloud wings sprouted from Xiao Zhe's back. With a flap, he shot down to the valley floor, crack, 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 his feet crunched on the corpses. So many dead monsters. Did the ceiling circle get damaged and leak the scent of some rare treasure, drawing them in? Too bad for them, the magic protecting array is still working. They just ended up getting killed instead of grabbing a prize. Xiao Zhe glanced around, piecing together what must have happened. It was the only thing that explained the pile of dead monsters. Making sure there was nothing else to worry about, Xiao Zhe focused on the ceiling array. To his surprise, the circle blocked his soul perception. When he used it to scan the valley above, he hadn't noticed anything down here. If the fire dragon hadn't cleared the mist, letting him see it with his own eyes, he might have missed the opportunity. This thing blocks soul perception. An alchemist must have set this up. After all, no one knows your weaknesses better than your family. You're always gonna be wary of them trying to steal your stuff. Xiao Zhe thought to himself, then created a fireball in his palm. With a flick of his wrist, he launched it at the ceiling circle. The array shimmered. Under the effect of the light, the fireball didn't explode. Instead, it shot right back at him. Xiao Zhe's eyes widened. He dodged just in time. The fireball zoomed past, missing him by inches. It slammed into a corpse behind him, triggering a booming explosion that echoed through the valley. That's how it got all the monsters. Considering how worn down the array is, it's amazing it can still throw back my fireballs. This ceiling array must have been a beast in its prime. It may have been just a random fireball, but if it hit a great fighting master, it would do some serious damage. Right now, Xiao Zhe was at the peak of Dou Ling. This is tricky. If I use the roaring waves of the blue sea, won't the whole place be underwater? Xiao Zhe thought about it and decided to keep hitting it with flames. If one fireball didn't work, he'd just use hundreds, thousands of them. There's no way this ancient ceiling formation could withstand that kind of assault. Chapter 92, Transformation Pill. The Forbidden Elixir that Touches the Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Based on the fireball's earlier reflection, this ceiling array's reflection works just like light bouncing off a mirror, Xiao Zhe murmured. Spreading his purple cloud wings and hovering in the air, flames erupted around him, and focusing his soul perception, he shaped them into spears of fire. He launched the spears diagonally downward at the ceiling formation. The faint light on the ceiling circle flickered rapidly under the barrage. It reflected the flame spears back into the valley. Xiao Zhe had calculated the angle perfectly, ensuring the spears landed harmlessly on the valley floor. This way he wouldn't have to constantly dodge reflected attacks. The explosions echoed through the valley, but Xiao Zhe ignored them, continuing to conjure fire spears and fly toward the ceiling formation. He couldn't believe this flimsy barrier could hold out. Individually, the spears weren't particularly powerful, barely effective against even low-level cultivators, but Xiao Zhe's plan was to simply drain the ceiling circle's energy. He could keep this up for days. Condensing the spears took less energy than using his Yunling flying technique. As the ceiling circle's light dimmed, Xiao Zhe's anticipation grew. What treasure is buried here, requiring such a powerful seal? Surely someone wouldn't go to all this trouble just to leave a note saying, "Gotcha, crack, The sound was nearly lost in the explosions, but Xiao Zhe caught it. He immediately ceased his attack. The ceiling circle was indeed broken, revealing an entrance. After a moment's thought, Xiao Zhe reversed the form of the remaining spears, turning them into a fire dragon that surged into the opening. He followed close behind, using the dragon's flames to illuminate the ruins ahead. 100 yards or so into the ruins, Xiao Zhe found the true treasure. It was a massive palace, forged entirely of bronze, seamlessly integrated into a single structure. It looked like it had been shaped directly by a powerful expert, rather than built brick by brick. Interesting. This looks like the work of an alchemist. Melting down enough bronze to make a mountain, then shaping it with soul perception into this palace. The sight of the bronze palace only confirmed his suspicion that this was an alchemist's relic. He felt around the door, examining the bizarre bronze monster heads flanking the entrance. After a moment, he produced 2 third-level magic cores with matching attributes. He placed them in the monster's mouths. Suddenly, the bronze figures seemed to come alive, their eyes glowing with power. Did this alchemist also dabble in mechanisms? Xiao Zhe wondered aloud, as he randomly tapped a few spots on the door. With a loud rumble, the bronze doors swung open. Good thing I know a little about mechanisms myself. The moment the doors cracked open, a wave of decay washed over Xiao Zhe, forcing him to retreat. He frowned, his hopes dwindling. The smell indicated that this was a relic from ancient times, and anything of value was likely long gone, and in the relics of an alchemist, the most precious thing is undoubtedly the elixir. Hopefully, I can at least find some recipes. Xiao Zhe instructed the fire dragon to enter first, hoping to dissipate the foul air. He cautiously extended his soul perception but quickly withdrew it, confirming his fears. There was nothing left to salvage. He went straight to the heart of the bronze palace. While the other areas had been ravaged by time, there was still a chance of finding something worthwhile here. Scattered among the tables and chairs were the bones of what must have been the palace's owner. Among the remains, Xiao Zhe found a scroll and a jade bottle. He also found a ring, but the Neji had long since crumbled to dust. Xiao Zhe unfurled the scroll, lightly tapping it as his soul perception began to decipher its contents. Whoa! He abruptly stopped reading, pulling his hand away. He stared at the bones with shock. As he had suspected, the occupant was indeed an alchemist. From ancient times, the scroll detailed his life and one particular accomplishment he was incredibly proud of: the creation of the transformation pill. A forbidden elixir capable of changing one's innate attributes. This alchemist harbored a grand vision: to mass-produce alchemists. But on Dou Qi continent, a person's attributes are determined by their soul. Most souls only possess a single attribute. However, there are exceptions. Among billions, some are born with mutated souls that possess multiple attributes. Therefore, becoming a famous alchemist is predetermined from birth. But this ancient alchemist refused to accept this. His relentless research led him to the creation of the yunling dan, the spiritual transformation pill. This pill could alter a person's soul, thus changing their physical attributes. It would grant them the essential attributes of fire and wood, the prerequisites for becoming an alchemist. Xiao Zhe glanced at the jade bottle. Sure enough, the words Yunling Dan were written on it. He tried not to get his hopes up. The elixir inside was inert. If he opened it and smelled anything beyond decay, he would consider himself lucky. He wasn't particularly disappointed, though. The existence of this elixir meant he could now stand proudly alongside Xiao Xun'er and the little fairy doctor, openly displaying his alchemical abilities. But why hasn't this incredible elixir, with its ability to change souls, been passed down? If it had, there would be far more alchemists. Anyone could become one. Xiao Zhe suspected the answer lay in the scroll's second half. He placed his finger on it again, and his soul perception continued reading. When he finished, Xiao Zhe shook his head in regret. His eyes, filled with shock, focused on the bones as he muttered, "What a crazy guy." The elixir was real. The spirit transformation pill truly granted a person the fire and wood attributes of an alchemist, but the main ingredient was the soul of another alchemist. That's right. This madman used the souls of other alchemists as fuel, tossing them into the cauldron to create the elixir. This depraved act was how he created the forbidden spirit transformation pill. But what surprised Xiao Zhe the most was that the alchemist didn't die at the hands of his peers. He died by suicide. Chapter 93 Top Medicine Cauldron. Yunling Cauldron. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ancient alchemist's final notes on the scroll were a mess. It was clear he was losing his mind. Still, Xiao Zhe managed to piece together why he killed himself. The ancient alchemist had been ecstatic about successfully creating the spirit transformation pill. Knowing that using alchemist souls to make medicine was a major taboo, he'd secretly collected them. The alchemy world remained completely unaware of the spirit transformation pill's existence until he'd finally perfected it, but before he succeeded, he'd consumed the souls of countless innocent alchemists. In his warped mind, he hadn't done anything wrong. The world needed more brilliant alchemists. He believed those born with the talent often squandered it, never even becoming true alchemists. It was a waste of a gift from God. Now, with the spirit transformation pill, these useless alchemists could finally be put to good use. People with strong souls but lacking fire and wood attributes could now become alchemists. Maybe it could even lead to a whole new generation of talented alchemists. He gave the first 2 spirit transformation pills to his servants. Once he confirmed they'd gain the fire and wood attributes, he felt relieved. Then he started gathering the best materials to make a spirit transformation pill for his son. His only son, who had incredible soul perception, but fate was cruel, denying him the fire and wood attributes. His son's inability to follow in his footsteps as an alchemist was a major reason for developing the pill in the first place. The turning point came right after his son took the pill. The ancient alchemist was horrified to discover that, while his son did gain the fire and wood attributes, his soul perception was drastically weakened. A closer look revealed that his son's soul had actually been damaged. Damaged souls and weakened perception were bad enough. It could even lead to sudden death. This discovery sent him scrambling to examine the souls of his 2 servants. What he found shattered his beliefs and filled him with despair. The spirit transformation pill's main ingredient was an alchemist's soul. It changed the soul, thereby changing attributes, but it carried a huge risk: soul collision. Successfully changing attributes meant the soul was definitely altered. His servant's soul perception wasn't strong enough for them to notice their souls were incomplete. Of course, a crippled soul couldn't grow stronger. If the soul's perception couldn't improve, an alchemist's potential was capped. He'd used one group of useless alchemists to create another. His son's case was even worse. Because he'd used the best material, a powerful alchemist's soul, the clash of soul energies was far more damaging. His son's soul was severely compromised. Soon after, his son died from soul failure. Despite his desperate efforts, he couldn't save him. Xiao Xun'er shook his head. Those who play with souls get burned. After his son died, the 2 servants also perished from their damaged souls. It was a complete and utter failure of his spirit transformation pill project. The failure, coupled with his son's death, completely broke him. He'd essentially killed his own son. Devastated, he returned to this bronze palace. He burned his entire collection of martial arts techniques and skills, tore apart the elixirs he'd created, destroying everything. Only one magic pill remained, and he committed suicide in front of it. Xiao Xun'er closed the scroll and slipped it into his ring, then picked up the jade bottle containing the spirit transformation pill. This would be the foundation of his own fair use of alchemy. Since the spirit transformation pill hadn't spread, even the ancient families wouldn't have any information about it. Plus, the alchemist had destroyed everything related to its creation. The description on the jade bottle, along with his own spin, would be enough to convince people that he discovered a perfect pill. A pill that could grant anyone the talent of an alchemist. Xiao Xun'er glanced at the withered bones and shook his head. This ancient alchemist might have started with good intentions. He wanted to give his son talent, and to give everyone the chance to become an alchemist. He'd worked tirelessly to create this magic pill, but years of struggle had driven him mad. The moment he began using alchemist souls as medicine, he'd strayed onto a dark path. From then on, his tragic end was inevitable. That flawed pill had ended his son's life. It had shattered his faith and hope, bringing about his own demise. Xiao Xun'er put away the jade bottle and looked around the bronze palace, a little disappointed. He'd finally stumbled upon a real opportunity, and surprisingly even found a reason to return, but hadn't gotten a reward yet. Remembering that this alchemist had deployed a sealing circle to block the soul, there was a chance some method was hidden here in the bronze palace. Xiao Xun'er made up his mind to search around, in case he'd missed something before. With this idea in mind, Xiao Xun'er controlled the fire dragon and shuttled back and forth among a pile of junk. A true treasure is certainly not afraid of the flames. Not long after, Xiao Xun'er really found a surprise. In the back hall of the bronze palace, after clearing away a lot of junk, an extremely obscure ceiling formation suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Zhe's eyes. Sure enough, I can't even detect the soul perception. Xiao Zhe repeated his old tricks and destroyed this ceiling formation. Then, under his control, the fire dragon flowed on the ground like liquid. Under the burning of high temperature, the bronze floor seemed to be stimulated, slowly sinking, and finally opened downward like 2 doors. What catches the eye is a huge medicine cauldron. Xiao Zhe saw a jade slip above the top cover of the medicine. He sucked the palm of his hand and took the jade slip in his hand. After reading the information, Xiao Zhe felt a little lucky. After the ancient alchemist returned to the bronze palace, he indeed destroyed everything he owned, but in the end, when faced with the medicine cauldron that had been with him for decades, he still couldn't make a move. The alchemist's medicine cauldron is his partner in fighting side by side and his best friend who gets along day and night. during the decades he had been developing the spirit transformation pill, the yunling cauldron had been with him the longest, therefore, he failed in the end. According to the introduction in the jade slip, the alchemist's medicine cauldron is divided into levels 1 to 8, from low to high, and further up is the heavenly cauldron ranking. Every medicine cauldron on the heavenly cauldron list can make countless alchemists flock to it. Although the yunling cauldron is not on the heavenly cauldron ranking, it is no worse than the medicine cauldron on the heavenly cauldron ranking. I beg you readers to keep reading. Now I recommend you to read it all. I beg you to use your little hands and pull it to the last page of the book. Thank you. Thanks to Tian for the reward. Many thanks. Thanks to Yi Suning, Xingmia Osama, the ancestor of demons and demons, Handsome Guy AA and Rainy Night Feihong for their monthly ticket support. Chapter 94. The amount of elixirs is exchanged for medicinal materials, showing their full use. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yunling Cauldron. It might not be on the heavenly cauldron ranking, but it's still in the same league as the medicine cauldrons that are. Xiao Xun'er trusted the jade slip's description completely. After all, the Yunling cauldron was the reason that ancient alchemists could finally refine the spirit transformation pill. The Yunling cauldron does a bunch of stuff, but the thing alchemists envy most is how it amps up the spiritual concentration in elixirs. Only the really good elixirs are spiritual in the first place. And the better the elixir, the harder it is to refine and the harder it is to make it more spiritual, but the Yunling cauldron here is different. It actually nourishes the spirituality of high-level elixirs. That alone is enough to make any high-level alchemist lose their mind. Xiao Xun'er reached out and touched the Yunling cauldron. It was a dark silver color, almost dull, like it hadn't awakened yet, but Xiao Zhe's powerful soul perception picked up the faint spirituality inside, that matched what Yao Lao said about how the medicine cauldrons on the heavenly cauldron list are all spiritual. It was clear the ancient alchemist wasn't exaggerating about the Yunling cauldron. The Yunling cauldron's ability to nourish spirituality in high-level elixirs is so great it could easily top the heavenly cauldron list. I really hit the jackpot this time. Xiao Xun'er used his soul perception to connect with the medicine cauldron's spirituality and saw that it wasn't hostile. He breathed a sigh of relief and stashed the cauldron in his ring. I scored a medicine cauldron that's as good as the best of the best for free. That's like finding Earth-level martial arts skills. Xiao Xun'er kept searching the bronze palace, too bad there was nothing else there. After looking everywhere, Xiao Xun'er finally gave up. He went back to the entrance, closed the bronze door, and took the third-order magic core out of the monster's mouth. The core was drained of energy, but Xiao Xun'er didn't care and tossed it into his ring. Compared to what he'd gained in there, the used energy was nothing. Back in the valley, Xiao Xun'er dragged the corpses of some big monsters to cover up the cave entrance. With the fog in the valley, you'd have to fall right in to find it. Alright, time to head back. Xiao Xun'er spread his purple cloud wings, gave them a flap, and shot into the air. On the way back, Xiao Xun'er checked the crystal card that held his elixir quota. He hadn't used it yet. It'd be a waste to just exchange it for ready-made elixirs. Now that I know how to do alchemy, I should just swap the quota for ingredients and refine the elixirs myself. I should run that by the elders I know, but it's not a big deal, so they should be okay with it, right? With that in mind, Xiao Xun'er flew straight to the inner courtyard's medicine refining department. Xiao Xun'er checked the system panel and saw that Xiaoyan's alchemy feedback was down to a few times, at most 10. Looks like the first subsidiary feedback is pretty much guaranteed to be 100 times. The first time he got feedback from the little doctor's poisonous body, and from Xiaoyan's alchemy skills, it was 100-fold. After that, the multiplier dropped way down. Once in a while, he'd get a few dozen times, but that was rare. If that's the case, I've got to hope that Ziyan's bloodline power doesn't increase as she gets stronger. It would be best to save the first subsidiary feedback for the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit. 100 times the Dragon Phoenix Origin Fruit feedback. Man! Just thinking about it is scary. That while he was thinking that, Xiao Xun'er easily collected the feedback from Xiaoyan's alchemy on the panel. Compared to the little doctor's poisonous body, Xiaoyan's alchemy feedback came in a lot more often. Xiaoyan was just starting out in alchemy and made a little progress every time he made medicine. So every time he finished refining something, he gave Xiao Zhe some feedback. Feeling the new alchemy knowledge filling his mind, Xiao Zhe grinned. Keep at it, little brother. But with Xiao Yan working so hard, Xiao Zhe could already see the future. His system panel was going to be full of alchemy feedback. If it's hard to get big feedback, he'd make up for it with quantity. No way he couldn't get another 100-fold feedback with all this alchemy stuff coming his way. Whoosh! Coming up on the inner courtyard, Xiao Zhe put away his Ziyun wings. The badge on his chest flashed and he passed through the inner courtyard's protective barrier. Once he was officially in the inner courtyard, Xiao Zhe headed straight for the medicine refining department. Elder Xue, long time no see. What are you doing here in the inner courtyard? Xiao Zhe got to the medicine refining department and ran into an elder he hadn't seen in ages. It was the guy who handled his pill quota in the outer courtyard. Now he was here in the inner courtyard. It's my turn to rotate into the inner courtyard this year. Looks like I got here at the same time as you. When Elder Xue saw Xiao Zhe, he smiled and spoke kindly. You must have saved up a lot of elixir quota, right? Here's a list of pills you can get. Xiao Zhe shook his head and turned down the list Elder Xue handed him. I recently had an adventure and discovered I had some alchemy talent. So I want to use these pill quotas to trade for ingredients and practice a bit. Can't let that alchemy talent go to waste, right? Elder Xue's jaw dropped. If it wasn't Xiao Zhe saying this, he might have kicked him out. Gaining alchemy talent later in life was unthinkable. Seeing that Elder Xue didn't believe him, Xiao Zhe pulled out the Xuanling Dan and showed it to him. Wow! The Dou Qi continent is really wild. It even has elixirs this crazy. Elder Xue sighed, hesitated, and then shook his head. He let Xiao Zhe go pick out ingredients from the warehouse and then come back to settle the account. Xiao Zhe didn't hold back. He got to the ingredient warehouse and saw all the piles of ingredients. His eyes lit up. This wasn't the advanced warehouse that Xiao Yan had gotten into. The ingredients here weren't that rare or high-end, so they were just piled up, but there were enough for Xiao Zhe, of course. Among the alchemy knowledge he had gotten from the 100-fold feedback were also elixir recipes. Xiao Zhe picked out ingredients for 3 recipes, took a bunch of each, and went back to Elder Xue. Wow! You really want to trade for this many? Yep. Xiao Zhe nodded, and Elder Xue sighed and helped him with the transaction. If it doesn't work out, just bring the ingredients back and I'll put the elixir quota back on your card. Being an alchemist isn't easy. Elder Xue knew that a genius like this had to have his own ideas. He would let Xiao Zhe try first. If it didn't work, he'd help him later. Thanks, Elder Xue. Xiao Zhe raised his hand, took the elixir quota card, and then put the ingredients into his ring. Honestly, the elders at Canaan College had been really good to him. And Xiao Zhe respected them for that. After thanking him again, Xiao Zhe said goodbye to Elder Xue. Chapter 95 The Powerful Yunling Cauldron. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Medicinal Material Archive. Elder Xue watched Xiao Zhe leave, then decided it was best to report this to the Great Elder. Soon after, in a dimly lit room, the Great Elder frowned. Having listened intently to Elder Xue's account, he'd never heard of a pill as incredible as the spirit transformation pill, but Xiao Zhe wasn't one to act without purpose. He wouldn't waste such a precious elixir for useless materials. Spirit transformation pill. I'm no alchemist, so my knowledge of pills is limited. I'll ask Old Man Hui in the alchemy department. The Great Elder paused, then spoke gravely. And what about Xiao Zhe? Let him be. A genius like him has his own ideas. If it doesn't work out, we'll just get his elixirs back. The Great Elder thought for a moment and made the same decision as Elder Xue. As long as the loss isn't too great, we'll return the elixir. Over at the alchemy department. What? Elder Su, are you kidding me? A pill that potent, that when Elder Hu of the alchemy department saw Su Qian, he welcomed him with tea. But after hearing Su Qian's story, Elder Hu was stunned and crushed his teacup without realizing it. Tea dripped down his hand, but he didn't notice, staring intently at Su Qian. If a spirit transformation pill actually existed, how could it have been lost? It could bestow alchemical talent. It was priceless. If such a pill existed, alchemists could be trained artificially. You've never heard of the spirit transformation pill, Elder Hua? Su Qian frowned. This was serious. He wasn't in the alchemy world, so it was understandable that he didn't know the pill, but as a 5th-grade alchemist, Elder Hua would know the basics. Never. I've read countless ancient texts. I've never seen a pill with such miraculous effects in any alchemy records. But the Dou Qi continent is vast. If this pill has been passed down from ancient times without record, it's possible. Really, we're just guessing. Why not wait and see what Xiao Zhe finds out? Then we'll know the truth. Su Qian paused, then slowly nodded. True. But I hope this pill doesn't have side effects and ruin a genius. Back in training room number 2, the little fairy doctor and Xiao Xun'er were surprised. They hadn't expected Xiao Zhe back so soon. Xiao Zhe, find anything interesting out there? The little fairy doctor spoke first, glancing at the door, checking if Xiao Zhe had brought back another girl. Why are you looking at the door? Xiao Zhe waved his hand to get their attention. I found something. I stumbled upon some alchemist ruins. Inside, I found a pill that grants alchemical talent, the spirit transformation pill. Xiao Zhe's announcement made the little fairy doctor widen her eyes. So, you're an alchemist now? She asked quickly, seeing her eagerness. Xiao Zhe smiled and nodded. He flipped his wrist and produced the bottle of spirit transformation pills. Such miraculous elixirs exist. The Dou Qi continent never ceases to amaze. Xiao Xun'er stepped closer, carefully inspecting the bottle. Seeing the description, she exclaimed in surprise. Even with Xun'er's knowledge, she'd never heard of a pill that could bestow alchemical talent. Not only that, I found a high-level cauldron in the ruins. Apparently, it rivals the ones on the heavenly cauldron list. Xiao Zhe summoned the cloud spirit cauldron. The huge cauldron dropped to the floor, shaking the ground slightly. Xiao Xun'er and the little fairy doctor looked at it curiously. Even if they weren't alchemists, they could sense its extraordinary quality. It possessed a faint spirituality. But Xiao Zhe, I've heard it's not easy to become an alchemist. Even with the talent, you need a teacher to guide you. Self-study is almost impossible. Do you want to join the alchemy department, Xiao Zhe? Xiao Zhe smiled and declined Xiao Xun'er's offer, revealing the jade slip. I also received an inheritance from the alchemist's relics. I'll try self-study first. Maybe I'm talented enough to teach myself. Hearing this, Xiao Xun'er stopped trying to persuade him. If necessary, she would use her family connections to find some high-level alchemists to mentor Xiao Zhe. Okay, I'm going to start practicing alchemy. You two can continue training. Xiao Zhe went to the corner of the training room. Xiao Xun'er and the little fairy doctor huddled together, watching Xiao Zhe mess with the materials. Xun'er, is that cauldron really that good? The little fairy doctor knew little about the Dou Qi continent, especially alchemy. Incredibly good. If what Xiao Zhe says is true, it's comparable to those on the heavenly cauldron list. The opportunity Xiao Zhe gained this time is enough to make countless alchemists envious and jealous. Xiao Xun'er nodded and explained further about the heavenly cauldron list. There are 2 major lists in the alchemy world, the strange flame list and the heavenly cauldron list, which catalog the strange flames and cauldrons. For alchemists, strange flame and cauldron are their most powerful weapons. Anything on these lists would be pursued relentlessly. After Xiao Xun'er's lesson, the little fairy doctor understood. She looked at the cloud spirit cauldron with shock. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhe poured fire energy into the cloud spirit cauldron, quickly heating it. Then, the branch representing alchemy in his mind trembled. A trace of wood power was produced. It took Xiao Yan 10 minutes to find wood power, but Xiao Zhe could create it directly. As the wood power entered the cauldron, the violent flames calmed. This allowed Xiao Zhe to control the flames more easily. Following the recipe in his mind, Xiao Zhe added the ingredients and started his first attempt at alchemy. Despite it being his first time, Xiao Zhe felt like a seasoned alchemist. Every move felt natural. He made sure Xiao Xun'er and the little fairy doctor were deep in their cultivation, otherwise, he'd have to pretend to be a beginner. Xiao Zhe also discovered the cloud spirit cauldron secrets. It allowed for easier flame control. The cauldron's spirituality also made it easier to refine materials. No wonder a good cauldron can greatly increase an alchemist's success rate. Chapter 96 Invitation from the Medicine Refining Department. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next step was fusing the refined powders in a specific ratio, the final touch. Xiao Xun'er composed himself, watching the roaring flames inside the cauldron. He knew this was the most critical point in the entire process. The medicinal liquid swirled rhythmically within, gradually taking on a perfectly rounded shape under the heat. Time ticked by until only a single, perfectly round elixir spun in the flames. Ha! For my first time, this is going surprisingly smoothly. Xiao Xun'er extinguished the flame, subtly using his palm to draw the elixir out of the cauldron and into his hand. It was pure white, adorned with a faint blue pattern. These patterns typically only form when an elixir reaches peak quality. The mark of a first-grade alchemist is the ability to independently refine elixirs. So, does this mean I'm already at the top tier of first-grade alchemists? Xiao Xun'er toyed with the snow-white pill. Unfortunately, all three of the recipes he'd gotten were for first-grade elixirs. He couldn't really test his limits as a refiner. Just because you can whip up a first-grade pill doesn't automatically make you a second-grade alchemist. Frost pill, designed to calm restless energy within the body. Xiao Xun'er retrieved a jade bottle and carefully placed the frost pill inside. The function's good, but I wonder how potent it is. It's just a first-grade pill, after all, so I can't expect miracles. The other two recipes are for the Fuli pill and the flame pill. The Fuli pill restores physical strength and also promotes healing. The flame pill is straightforward, designed to help fire attribute cultivators boost their training speed. Right now, the frost pill is definitely the most useful. It'll help Xun'er and the others train longer inside the Tianfen refining tower. After making a dozen of the other two elixirs, Xiao Xun'er focused entirely on the frost pill. He sampled all three types himself. They had some effect, but they weren't particularly useful to someone at his current power level. Brother Xiao Xun'er. Is this that elixir inheritance you were talking about? Xiao Xun'er's voice startled him, drawing his attention from the pill in his hand. Seeing Xiao Zhe's nonchalant attitude, Xiao Xun'er couldn't help but feel a little bewildered. Even though she wasn't an alchemist, she knew it wasn't exactly a walk in the park. It takes over a year just to learn the basics of alchemy. And who knows how long before you can actually refine anything and become a first-grade alchemist. Now, Xiao Xun'er goes out for a bit, and comes back able to refine finished elixirs, the mark of a first-grade alchemist. Such an opportunity made Xiao Xun'er envious. Compared to Xiao Xun'er, who understood how unbelievable Xiao Zhe's feat was, the little medical fairy, oblivious to the complexities of alchemy, wasn't all that shocked. Just seeing Xiao Xun'er actually making elixirs filled her with joy. Xiao Xun'er, you've really become an alchemist. I'm so jealous. It was my dream to become one, but my natural talent wasn't up to par. Oh, if only I could get a magic pill, too. Their contrasting reactions made Xiao Xun'er chuckle. I'm not kidding. I really did gain the talent of an alchemist, and the inheritance is incredible. It's like instant enlightenment. It's given me the experience of someone who's been doing this for decades. Xiao Zhe's explanation calmed Xiao Xun'er down a bit. On the other hand, the little medical fairy's face was filled with shock. Xiao Xun'er, you actually absorbed decades of medicine refining experience from someone else. That's so enviable, that the little medical fairy exclaimed, her face radiating envy. Seeing their envious expressions, Xiao Xun'er secretly smiled. He kept the smile on his face, placed the elixir in the jade bottle, and handed it over. This is the frost pill. It calms restless energy in the body. See if it can suppress your inner fire. If it does, you can start training on the platform. Hearing that, they dutifully took turns trying it out on the platform. Xiao Xun'er seemed fine. The little medical fairy's face flushed, showing that the fire within her was burning her up. Luckily, after a little help from the frost pill, I was able to withstand the fire. I can train on the platform while the pill is working. Xiao Xun'er shared, while the little medical fairy shook her head. I'm still a bit short. Even with the frost pill, the intensity of my inner fire is still too much. Keep practicing and wait until you're stronger. Alright, let's stick to that plan. You guys keep training here, and I'll see if I can find some more recipes. Xiao Zhe took a few bottles of each elixir, leaving the rest for them. He put away the yunling cauldron and headed to the medicine refining department for new recipes. Xiao Xun'er and the little medical fairy didn't start training right away, but chatted for a bit. Xiao Xun'er mainly talked about things related to the medicine refining world. This was what the little medical fairy wanted. She didn't want Xiao Zhe to become a successful alchemist. While she knew nothing about it, Xiao Zhe was walking when he realized he didn't know anyone in the alchemy department. It'd be better to see Elder Shui from the medicinal material library first and ask him for a recommendation. He might get better results that way. With that thought, Xiao Zhe turned and headed towards the medicinal material warehouse. Soon, Elder Shui had 3 bottles of elixir sitting in front of him. He looked at the elixirs, then at Xiao Zhe, and couldn't keep his composure. Did you actually make these 3 bottles of elixir? Xiao Zhe nodded seriously, raising his hands and said, the student did refine them. Let's go. Come with me to see Elder Hua. Elder Shui grabbed the 3 jade bottles, then Xiao Zhe's hand, and headed straight for the alchemy department. Seeing Elder Shui's reaction, Xiao Zhe knew he'd made the right call. Before long, Elder Hua had 3 jade bottles in front of him, all opened. First-grade elixirs of excellent quality with elixir patterns. They must have been refined by a skilled first-grade alchemist. Elder Hua looked up, a hint of shock in his eyes. Kid, did you really make these 3 pills? Yes, I did. Xiao Zhe raised his hand, and flame solidified in his palm. If the elders don't believe me, I can refine one on the spot. That's not necessary. It's just that what happened to you is a bit of a fantasy. I found a spirit transformation pill in the ruins of an alchemist, successfully gained the talent of an alchemist, and received the alchemist inheritance initiation. Elder Hua started guessing in his head, this kid must be someone loved by heaven and earth. What an unbelievable opportunity. Elder Hua couldn't help but say, you want to trade for elixir recipes? You might as well join the alchemy department directly. The Department of Alchemy is independent of the 2 colleges. There's no conflict between college classes and private tutors. If you want to become a teacher later, that'll be fine too. Chapter 97 Join the Alchemy Department. The inner court competition is approaching. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Faced with Elder Hua's sudden invitation, Xiao Zhe paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. Seeing Xiao Zhe's hesitation, Elder Hua pressed his advantage. Because of their unique nature, even within the academy, the alchemy department operates with a lot of freedom, even more so than the inner courtyard. The inner courtyard has monthly training focused on the Tianfen Qi refining tower, but the medicine refining department doesn't have anything like that. If you want to practice, then practice. If you want to refine medicine, then refine medicine. Basically, the alchemy department is like an alchemist guild operating within the academy. Hearing this, Xiao Zhe understood the potential benefits of joining. In that case, I'd be honored to join the alchemy department. Xiao Zhe responded respectfully, earning a rare smile from Elder Hua. Huh, great. I'll have Instructor Li come over to get you acquainted. Soon after, a tall female instructor entered, wearing the alchemist's uniform, distinguished by 3 gold stars on her chest. Xiao Zhe noticed she looked very young. Reaching the level of a 3rd-grade alchemist at her age suggested exceptional talent. Instructor Li, this is a new student joining the medicine refining department. Could you show him around? No problem. Instructor Li smiled at Xiao Zhe and waved him over. Hey kid, let's go. I'll familiarize you with everything. Elder Hua and Elder Shui exchanged amused glances. The kid was lucky, and clearly had a way with people. Instructor Li, typically serious and reserved even with the head of the alchemy department, was already treating him with warmth. After all, it's more of a partnership instead of superior-subordinate. As mentioned, the alchemy department functions much like an alchemist guild within the academy. Hey, I'm Li Yingying. You're joining the medicine refining department from the inner academy, so you must be an inner academy student, right? Yes, I'm Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe replied respectfully. Instructor Li stopped, turned, and sized Xiao Zhe up. Are you Xiao Zhe? The guy who's been tearing it up lately. Ranked number 2. That's me. Instructor Li continued to circle him, studying him. A young prodigy, wait a minute. Didn't I hear you have water attributes? How can you be an alchemist? Instructor Li realized the location. Elder Huo wants Xiao Zhe to join. It doesn't add up. Sure, he's ranked high and has cultivation talent, but still, right? Here's what happened. Xiao Zhe gave a brief explanation, leaving Instructor Li stunned. Such a lucky break was the envy of many. Okay, this is the inner academy branch of the medicine refining department. Pills are everything here. You can exchange them for anything you want, like elixirs, materials, rare recipes, and even mentoring. Instructor Li held up a crystal card to show Xiao Zhe. You probably haven't gotten one yet, so let me take you. She stopped when Xiao Zhe pulled out his own crystal card, showing an even higher pill count. Wait, what? You're really a new student. Instructor Li snatched the card, disbelief written on her face. She had just exchanged her own pills for a rare elixir. There shouldn't be a student higher than her. It's from my training program at another school. Xiao Zhe's words silenced Li Yingying. You're one lucky kid. With a sigh, Li Yingying resumed her role. Now that you're in the alchemy department, you'll need to earn pills. Students usually submit their refined elixirs for credit. Of course, there are other ways, like submitting recipes or materials. As a mentor, I get half of the pills my students spend. Pills are like fuel here. The more, the better. If you want rare elixirs, you gotta work hard. Li Yingying patted Xiao Zhe's shoulder. Got it. Thanks a lot, Instructor Li. After Li Yingying's explanation, Xiao Zhe understood the freedom of the medicine refining department compared to the inner court. It was practically a guild inside the academy. Alright, you should have a good idea now. If you have questions about refining, come see me, but I charge. Li Yingying waved goodbye and left. Xiao Zhe stayed behind, then headed to the pill formula library. Under the surprised gaze of the elder, Xiao Zhe exchanged for 2 second-grade and 1 third-grade pill formulas. Even some instructors might not be able to drop that much at once. The guardian elder was amazed. Xiao Zhe then visited the material warehouse. Making exchanges with Elder Shui. Looking at his card, Xiao Zhe shook his head. Months of savings gone in a blink. I'll need to start refining and selling here, or I'll be broke soon. And so, Xiao Zhe joined the alchemy department. Besides refining, he also received daily rewards from Xiao Yan. The rewards ranged from double to tenfold, accelerating his progress. With his formulas, Xiao Zhe quickly went back to experiment. He could successfully refine even third-grade elixirs, meaning Xiao Zhe was at least a third-grade alchemist now. The harder Xiao Yan worked, the faster Xiao Zhe's skills improved. Each day brought growth. Aside from alchemy, Xiao Zhe also focused on cultivation. Although he was at the peak of Douling, the golden tree still allowed him to absorb energy continuously. The tree hadn't grown taller, but the trunk was expanding. Xiao Zhe wondered if he could grow the origin tree into a giant cylinder before breaking through to Dou Wang. The thought made him laugh, shaking off the unrealistic idea. He could try to break through Dou Wang at any time, but he wanted to wait for the inner court competition and the origin heart flame training. Further breakthroughs would bring even greater benefits. Thanks to readers. Please use your little hands and pull it to the last page of the book. Thank you. Thanks to Ching_AE, Feng Lian and Jinhua W for their monthly ticket support. Chapter 98 Xiao Xun'er, the Little Medical Fairy, makes a strong appearance on the list. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Several months had passed since Xiao Zhe joined the alchemy department. He'd been incredibly busy, dedicating most of his training time to refining elixirs. He burned through them like crazy, and if he hadn't been constantly refining and submitting more to the department, he would have exhausted his quota in no time. But all that consumption was paying off, dramatically improving his alchemy skills. Canaan College lived up to its reputation. The alchemy department's collection of elixir recipes was truly impressive. Xiao Zhe used his alchemy skills to refine elixirs, exchanged them for quota, and then used that quota to get more recipes. He was basically flipping his quota to turbocharge his alchemy knowledge. Plus, Xiao Yan's alchemy skill feedback included even more recipes. Between the two sources, Xiao Zhe's recipe collection in just a few months rivaled that of seasoned 4th grade alchemists. His progress was obvious, and he could now skillfully refine 4th grade elixirs. He hadn't tried a 5th grade elixir yet, though. Those recipes were expensive, even within the system, almost 2,000 elixir quota. If Xiao Zhe hadn't found a way to earn extra quota, he'd be stuck waiting almost a year to afford just one recipe with his original 200 pill monthly allowance. He almost had enough to trade for one, but then he heard a tutor in the alchemy department had the recipe for the purple spirit pill. He splurged and got it. The purple spirit pill was simple. It could directly boost a great fighter by 1 star. It wouldn't break them into the next major realm, but it had no side effects. Unlike the 3-pattern yunling pill that Xiao Yan had refined, you could only take one elixir of either type. The good news was that the purple spirit pill wouldn't clash with the 3-pattern green spirit pill. The bad news was that Xiao Zhe didn't have that recipe. Even if he didn't have 3 different flames to make it. More good news, Xiao Xun'er and the little medical fairy were already nearing the fighting spirit realm. The 3-line yunling pill might be wasted on them. Xiao Zhe refined 2 purple spirit pills, and they each took one. It brought them closer to their breakthrough. With the inner court competition less than a month away, they were practicing like crazy, trying to reach the fighting spirit realm before it started. Speaking of which, Xun'er and the little medical fairy got inspired by my progress and started working harder, Xiao Zhe thought. In a few months, they've gone from the early stages of the great Dou Master realm to the peak, ready to challenge the Douling realm. That's practically keeping pace with Xiao Yan in the original story. Xiao Yan had all sorts of heaven-sent treasures practically handed to him, including rare elixirs. When he finally became a Douling, he even used earth core body tempering milk, a treasure cultivated for thousands of years. Compared to that, these two are doing exceptionally well with just my elixir. Xiao Zhe watched Xiao Xun'er on the platform of the second training room, lost in thought. If Xun'er successfully broke through to the Douling realm, what special reward would the system give? He knew he couldn't rush his own advancement. He had to wait until after the inner court competition to break through to Dou Wang. 2 days later, a powerful energy wave swept across the number 2 training room. Even Xiao Zhe, who was refining elixirs, was startled. Fortunately, he was only at the refining stage, and only lost one medicinal plant. Looks like she did it. Xiao Zhe checked the system feedback and looked toward the platform. The lithe figure flew like a butterfly into his arms. Brother Xiao Zhe, I broke through to Douling. That's great. Xiao Zhe ruffled Xiao Xun'er's hair, and she looked blissful. Finally, she was on the same level as brother Xiao Zhe. There was still a gap, as she was a new Douling, while he was at the peak, but it was a start. Remembering their past, Xiao Xun'er looked up at Xiao Zhe, worried. Brother Xiao Zhe, are you going to break through to the Dou Wang realm soon? Seeing her nervousness, Xiao Zhe playfully pinched her cheek and chuckled. It's not that dramatic. Breaking through to Dou Wang isn't that simple. But after the inner court competition and training with Origin Heart Flame, I should be able to break through smoothly. Xiao Xun'er sighed in relief, but she was also thoughtful. If things kept going like this, she'd always be holding brother Xiao Zhe back. Even that precious 7th grade elixir. If she left, would brother Xiao Zhe be able to grow even stronger and become a Dou Wang by now? Xiao Xun'er buried her face in Xiao Zhe's chest, inhaling the scent of medicinal ingredients that clung to him from his constant refining. A decision quietly formed in her heart. Maybe it was time to return to the ancient tribe, so they could both grow faster. She couldn't keep holding brother Xiao Zhe back. Xiao Xun'er thought of the messages from the ancient tribe urging her return and clenched her hands. Xiao Zhe felt her sudden grip and frowned slightly, but he didn't ask, just gently patted her back. If Xun'er had something on her mind, she'd tell him. Another powerful wave swept across the training room. A figure in white landed in front of them. You two don't have to be that close, do you? The little medical fairy looked at them with a hint of something in her eyes. Ahem, congratulations on both breaking through to the fighting spirit realm, Xiao Zhe said, gently patting Xiao Xun'er's back, but Xiao Xun'er didn't move like she usually did, staying put. Xun'er, what's wrong? After a moment, Xiao Xun'er stood up, shook her head, and smiled. It's nothing. I'm just too happy. Xiao Zhe glanced at her, said nothing, and didn't push. Now that you've both reached the fighting spirit realm, getting on the strong list will be easy, he said. But to avoid endless challenges, you should aim for the top 30. Okay, that the next day, the 25th and 26th ranked students were defeated. Normally, changes in the middle of the strong list wouldn't cause a stir, but these two challengers were different. They were freshmen. Everyone remembered the last freshman to make it onto the strong list, and now, two freshmen were on the list, both closely connected to Xiao Zhe. Chapter 99 The Strong Ranking Competition begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Xun'er and Little Medical Fairy snagging the 25th and 26th spots on the rankings. That lit up the inner courtyard like crazy. Figures. Only monsters hang with other monsters. They waltz into the inner courtyard less than a year ago and are already smack dab in the middle of the strong list. They're young. Even if they didn't totally crush it this time, there's always next year. What are you smoking? Xiao Zhe's sitting pretty at number 2. What's unsatisfactory about that? The buzz around Xiao Xun'er and Little Medical Fairy boils down to one thing, their connection to Xiao Zhe. He's currently chilling at number 2 on the strong list, a rank that makes 99% of the inner courtyard students look up to him. Anyone, connected to Xiao Zhe gets major attention. You know, besides their natural talent, they probably got a boost from Xiao Zhe, too. I've seen him sneaking around the medicine refining department a lot lately. Think he's pulling strings to get someone to cook up elixirs for them. A student from the alchemy department overheard this, shooting them a look. You guys know Xiao Zhe is in the medicine refining department, right? That he dropped that bomb, and suddenly, all eyes were on him, soaking up the attention. What are you rambling about? Everyone knows his fighting style is water-based. How's he supposed to be a fire-type alchemist? The first student scoffed. The alchemy department student rolled his eyes. Don't be such a know-nothing. Xiao Zhe's alchemy skills make our instructors look like amateurs. He apparently stumbled on some alchemist's inheritance on an expedition, popped a spiritual transformation pill that gave him the talent, and got an alchemist's direct initiation. The dude practically skipped to the endgame, like those old-school alchemists who've been at it for decades. The others were floored. Jaws dropped. A spiritual transformation pill that grants alchemy talent, unreal. Suddenly, everyone wanted one. Imagine, snagging an opportunity like that, becoming a top-tier alchemist, basically a legend overnight. Power, riches, babes, you just snap your fingers and boom, they're at your doorstep. Xiao Zhe really hit the jackpot. Instantly, he became the target of envy and a little resentment. Later, alone in their rooms, people were kicking themselves, wondering why fate didn't cut them a break, cursing the universe for not throwing that opportunity their way. This whole thing accidentally sparked a wave of students rushing into the mountains, chasing their own lucky break. If Xiao Zhe could level up in a single bound with a little luck, why couldn't they? All this excitement didn't take away from the anticipation of the ranking competition. Most students were focused on their own grind. Those who had been training in seclusion finally emerged, ready to challenge the top dogs. A bunch of dark horses came out of nowhere, battling for a spot in the competition. The top 20 stayed pretty locked down, but the bottom 30. Total bloodbath. Compare it to the list from 6 months ago, and you wouldn't recognize a single name. These formerly unknown students, who had been quietly putting in the work, finally had their moment. Their hard work was paying off. The freshest faces of the bunch were 25th and 26th on the list, but these two spots were untouchable. It wasn't just because they were backed by the number 2 powerhouse, it was the way Xiao Xun'er had destroyed the previous 25th and 26th place holders. A few diehards tried their luck against Xiao Xun'er and the Little Medical Fairy, but they were quickly shut down. After a couple of those beatdowns, nobody dared challenge them. Everyone knew their actual strength was way above their current ranking. This crazy qualifier event wrapped up with the morning bell. Countless students, emerging from training, felt a surge of excitement. The strong ranking competition was finally here. The most prestigious event at Canaan Academy, held every 5 years. Everyone worked their tails off for this, hoping to snag a killer ranking. The stakes were insanely high. The top 10 finishers would get the Origin Heart Flame bodybuilding reward, survive that training, and you practically had a VIP pass to the Do Wang realm. that reward alone made those at the peak of Dou Ling apply for a 2-year extension just to compete in the Inner Academy's strong ranking competition. Breaking through to Dou Wang was notoriously difficult, with many stuck at Dou Ling for life. That's how much everyone wanted it. Students flocked to the central square. It was only opened for the strong ranking competition. The last time it was used, Lei Jia must have pulled some strings to get the academy to let him fight Xiao Zhe there. Nearly 1,000 inner courtyard students packed the square. The place felt oddly cramped. The discussions were endless. As the top players rolled in, the buzz grew louder and louder. When Xiao Zhe showed up, the square exploded. The noise was deafening. Hard to believe it was just 1,000 people making that much racket. Lei Jia pushed through the crowd, heading straight for Xiao Zhe. He sized him up, trying to read his aura, but Xiao Zhe's presence was like a locked box. You're at the peak of fighting spirit now, right? More or less. Xiao Zhe nodded. He had a ton of experience, so he should be stronger than most at that level. Basically, he was halfway to Dou Wang. That's insane. Less than a year in the inner courtyard, and you're already at the peak. Lei Jia shook his head, impressed. Lin Liang, a giant of a man, walked over. They had both lost to Xiao Zhe, so they knew what he was capable of. Xiao Zhe, if we cross paths in the competition, I'm giving it my all. Lin Liang said quietly, then turned and left. Hey, that's what I wanted to say. Lei Jia grumbled. Xiao Zhe chuckled, looking forward to it. Chapter 100 takes turns. Gloat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the inner court tournament kicked off, the elders made their appearance. Su Qian, the inner court's head elder, drew the most attention. Being the highest level competition, the head elder would naturally attend and preside. Greetings, students. The inner court tournament, which you've all been waiting for, is about to begin. Many of you have been training hard in seclusion, aiming for a high ranking. I'll briefly explain the rules. Contestants will draw lots to determine their opponents. As the contestants emerged, the atmosphere on the field crackled with excitement, a mix of cheers and shouts. When Xiao Xun'er and the little fairy doctor appeared, the girls' cheers nearly drowned everything out. Xiao Zhe chuckled, amused. Those two were definitely heartthrobs. He glanced at Lu Qing and Lin Xiuya. They were still ranked in the middle of the strong list. The next strong list competition, the one Xiao Yan would join, was coming soon. Lu Qing and Lin Xiuya held the second and third spots, but amidst the inner court's heavy hitters, they weren't particularly outstanding anymore. Their only edge was their experience. They'd been in the inner court for 2 years and were seemingly talented. Unfortunately, this year's class was overflowing with even more talent, guys like Xiao Zhe and a few others, who'd only joined the inner court less than a year ago, were already overshadowing them. Soon, the rankings reached the top 10, each contestant a Dou spirit powerhouse, drawing even louder cheers. Lei Jia, ranked third, stepped onto the field and focused his attention on Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe smiled back, then leaped gracefully onto the stage. Boom. The cheers were louder than all the top 10 combined, making the central square vibrate. Inner court students, old and new, male and female, roared their support for Xiao Zhe, chanting in unison. Go, Xiao Zhe. The other top 10 contestants exchanged wry smiles. This guy's popularity was ridiculous, but the records and legends he'd racked up since joining the inner court definitely earned him the hype. Even head elder Su Qian looked at Xiao Zhe with a curious expression. He was always surprised whenever he thought of Xiao Zhe. Suddenly, the cheers died down. A little girl in white clothes and purple hair was slowly walking onto the platform. She stopped in front of Xiao Zhe. The position represented, number 1 on the list. Some older students who'd witnessed Zi Yan climb to the top swallowed hard. They eyed the little girl warily, not daring to underestimate her because of her size. They knew the terrifying power packed into those tiny fists. You're the new number 2. Zi Yan asked, crossing her arms with an air of authority, paired with her childlike appearance. It almost seemed cute to the uninitiated, but those in the know wouldn't dare to find it amusing. That's me. What's up? Xiao Zhe replied calmly. I think you're alright. I hope you're tougher than the others, who can't even take one punch from me. Zi Yan clenched her fists, glancing at the other top 10 contestants. The others felt their skin crawl. breaking out in a cold sweat. "I'm looking forward to our fight too," Xiao Zhe said. The other top 10 contestants looked at him with admiration, fighting the brute force queen. Just thinking about it took guts. Ahem. Okay, contestants, draw your lots to determine your opponents. An instructor approached Ziyan with a box of red and blue bamboo sticks. Ziyan nonchalantly grabbed a stick, revealing the blue number 13. Ziyan's rise had been meteoric, so most students on the strong list knew to fear her. Seeing her draw blue 13, they feverishly prayed they wouldn't draw the corresponding red, otherwise, their strong list journey would end here. After Ziyan finished, the instructor quickly approached Xiao Zhe. Even as an inner court instructor, he wasn't about to mess with that little monster. Xiao Zhe bowed politely, then drew a bamboo stick. Blue 16. Students at the bottom of the rankings prayed they wouldn't get red 16. They realized there were so many opponents to avoid on this strong list. They weren't even sure they could beat the top 10, let alone the top 2. Even the top 10 had to pray they wouldn't draw those two. As the draw progressed, the tension ratcheted up. Then, Tang Hao, with his ocean blue hair, drew red 13. He felt his world go dark. How could he be so unlucky as to face the brute force queen? Thinking of Ziyan's physical strength, his knees buckled. The instructor shook his head sympathetically. Tough break. The other students breathed a sigh of relief. At least they dodged that bullet. Qing Xiu, next to Tang Hao, gloated. Then he saw the stick in his hand and his smile froze. Red 16. Pfft. Tang Hao burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Qing Xiu snarled. Ahem. I just remembered something funny. Qing Xiu glanced at Tang Hao's stick and sneered. I hope you'll be just as happy when you're on stage. Same to you. Misery loved company. The crowd, on and off the stage, were amused. Those two were so unlucky, drawing the top 2 in a row. The other strong list students sighed in relief. As long as they avoided those two monsters, they might have a chance against someone else. At least it wouldn't be a total blowout. The draw wrapped up quickly. 5 platforms stood in the central square. The ranking competition was usually held on the central platform, but if the fighting got too intense and the platform was damaged, the others could be used. The head elder pulled a stick from the box. 16. Number 16. Under the stage, Xiao Zhe, Xiao Xun'er, and the others looked at their sticks. I'm up first. Let me get things off to a good start. Xiao Zhe hopped onto the stage. Qing Xiu followed nervously. Both took their positions. Begin. An elder acted as the referee. As soon as the word was spoken, Qing Xiu collapsed to the ground. The cheers for Xiao Zhe died in the audience's throats. Did he just give up?